Namaste. Even though robots are quickly becoming more and more lifelike, there will always be one big difference between them and us: the ability to truly contemplate the questions, who am I, and what is the purpose of my existence? Let's watch as Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupananda talks about this very important distinction.
What are the symptoms of the presence of a person in a human body? What are the symptoms of, if you can't see the person?
You want to know why we say there's a person in a human body, but there's not a person in a robot body?
Right, because you can't see the person.
Well, that's another talk. That's 1,000 symptoms. But the main two symptoms, one is you can experience yourself, number one, and that is self-awareness. I exist, I am. I'm aware of my existence. Awareness. A computer robot has no awareness. Now, some people say, well, they admit that computer robots don't have awareness, but they say, well, it appears like they do. And since it can appear like they do, since they have complex behavior, then maybe there really is no such thing as awareness. Maybe it's just an illusion created by complex, unpredictable behavior. But what nullifies that ridiculous argument is our own experience of our own awareness. Now, although experience of one's own awareness is not verifiable by any scientific instruments, and it's not verifiable by anyone else, no one can directly experience my experience of self-awareness, that I exist. It doesn't mean it's not real. Okay, that's number one. Awareness. There are symptoms of awareness also. But in addition to awareness, there are certain symptoms of the presence of life force, of life, growth from within, metabolism. These matter held in a very complex state, reproduction, ability to reproduce. These are some of the symptoms of the presence of a spirit soul or a spark of God in the body. Now, our point is that there is a spark of life force or life particle who is aware and who has a degree of free will, who is within the body, who is not the body, and who does not like being treated like a computer robot, because he's the controller of the body, you see. And if somebody else wants to control it, then, you know, hey, that gets in my way, okay? So
is this the reason why so many people are against genetic engineering and things like that?
What the reason?
That there's a person who doesn't...
Yes. Because they don't want, you know, it's not your right to be screwing around with my property, you know, or any other living beings. We have respect for life. We respect the living, and we respect the free will of a living entity in the body. See? So this is what they have to overcome, which is what you're going to ask next, right? That's what they have to overcome. They have to overcome, those who want to treat us like computer robots have to overcome this feeling that we have that life is distinct from matter, and life is sacred, and that, you know, non-life things are different from the living, that life is a fundamental distinction between life and non-life. They have to, you know, try to get rid of that. They have to overcome that. It's a barrier. And they have to overcome this feeling that we have that there is, you know, something wrong with manipulating, for example, human beings, human organisms, like in genetic engineering, you see. We don't like the idea of people factories, okay? We don't like this idea. So what they have to do is they have to convince us that there is no distinction between the living and the non-living in order to overcome these ethical protests. For example, the Supreme Court case where they decided the genetic engineering industry knew that they had to, in order to get the freedom to engage in the manipulation of of living organisms, genetic engineering, to have the freedom that they want. They knew that they had to get the right to patent living organisms, to have ownership, to be able to market and manipulate and control living organisms. So they ended up taking it to court, and they convinced the U.S. Supreme Court that there's no distinction between life and non-life, and therefore the patent law should also apply to living organisms. And they won the case. The Supreme Court accepted. It says, yes, life is largely chemical. There's no difference. There's no need to make a distinction between the living and the dead. So their reason behind trying to convince us that there's no distinction between life and non-life, or that life is material in origin and essence, is because they want to be able to treat living organisms in the way that they treat non-living organisms. See? And right now we have this superstition that there's a difference between the living and the non-living, you see. That's what they have to overcome, yes.
Well, I kind of agree with the Supreme Court decision. I don't think there really is any difference. It's just more complicated chemicals. And you seem to be disagreeing with B.F. Skinner, who's the most renowned behaviorist that's ever...
He's nonsense.
Well, you know, he said directly...
His book, very nicely, it's B.F. Skinner, if those you don't know, most well-known behaviorist in the United States, right, in the world. The name of his book is Beyond Freedom and Dignity. Beyond Freedom and Dignity. Oh, go on.
Well, he said directly that the whole problem is that we have this illusion that there's some person there, when really we're just very complicated, and awareness comes from this complicated combination of chemicals and stuff, and that we have to get rid of this illusion.
Right. B.F. Skinner says that there's no one in the body. It's just an illusion. That his whole book, Beyond Freedom and Dignity, tries to destroy the belief that there's someone in the body. Okay? So their whole idea is, in order to be able to control us better, they have to tell us that we're not in there. We don't have any free will at all. In the first place, there is no self in the body. You, who are now in your body, looking at this television set through those eyes, don't exist. You who think that you can stand up and turn off the TV, you don't exist. You who think you have some free will don't even exist. What to speak of your not having free will? You don't even exist. How can you have free will? How can you be free? What is freedom? Freedom means that there's a self who feels free and he's able to do or not do things, right? He has some freedom. There's someone there. But they're saying there's no one in the human form. It's just an empty machine like a computer robot. Okay? So this is how they try to take away our freedom, by convincing us that, I mean, you know, somebody tries to take away my freedom. They have to convince me that I have no free will, that I am just a computer robot. And if they can convince me that I'm just a computer robot, then I tend to accept being treated like a computer robot. I tend to accept that. So they have to convince me that, number one, there's no one in the body. There is no spirit soul in the body who has any semblance of free will at all. Okay? And there is no distinction between life and non-life. This is the purpose of B.F. Skinner's book, Beyond Freedom and Dignity, to convince us that there is no difference between life and non-life, and there is no self in the body. And by convincing us in this way, then they make it possible for themselves to engage in more manipulation. The aim is manipulation. You have to accept. Huh? What is your point?
Well, I would think that maybe it's a little too negative, because...
What's too negative? Me?
That you're being a little bit too negative about these people, because they may be trying to manipulate, but if there's no, you know, like if they're really right about there not being a person there, then this manipulation is justified for the survival, and they're probably trying to create a better world.
They are trying to create a better world for them. A world where they are controlling. You notice how nobody has free will but them. Nobody has the ability to control but them. Everyone should be programmed, but they're going to be the programmers. Who's going to be on top in Skinner's world? Who's going to be the one who's programming everybody else? Who's going to be the one to make the decisions on how we should create our society in order to program ourselves, you see? Just the people on the top. Okay? There's always a select few, you see, who say that their method is the best, and they're going to be the ones to do it. You see? So they are going to improve the world by taking away our freedom. Their goal is survival. The ultimate aim is survival. In order to survive, we have to do away with our freedom and our dignity. But you see, the roaches are going to survive. Even if there's a nuclear war, the roaches are going to survive. Where's the question of survival? Someone's going to survive. Okay? The point is not survival. The point is actually achieving the goal of human life. What is the goal of human life? This is what these people fail to consider. They don't know who they are. They think they're just a computer robot. What is the goal of being a computer robot? If you don't know who you are, what's your goal of life? We ran out of time. Consider these things. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today for this talk presented by the Science of Identity Foundation. We hope to see you for the next segment. Please subscribe to receive notifications of future live events. And if you have any questions or comments, please be sure to leave them below.